Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 153 of Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet. My name is David Howe.
My name is Matthew Stoner.
And my name is Patrick Knisley.
And it's just us today, folks. No guest whatsoever. Your three hosts are going to be doing an episode all about ranking the best 3D Zelda games. Majora's Mask just came out on Nintendo Switch Online's expansion pack service. It's a great 3D Zelda game. Where does it rank? That's what you're here to find out. We did an episode like this on the 3D Mario games, and we figured, it's time for like a little intimate episode with just the three of us boys. And what better time to do it than right now for a Zelda episode? We love doing Zelda episodes around here. We also got a good amount of news, lots of discussion to talk about this week in the world of gaming. There's a little thing called the fucking ground war in Ukraine going on right now that has had an impact on lots of game developers. We'll talk about that. Nintendo has made their own acquisition. We'll talk about that a little bit as well. Smash isn't showing up at EVO, unfortunately. So we'll see what happens there. And then some more stuff about this NSO expansion pack that might make fans happy. Before we get into any of that, how are you guys doing?
Doing okay.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Doing okay, all things considered.
Yeah. It's we just kind of just skipped straight from pandemic to World War III, didn't we? We just kind of no middle ground. Just kind of right there. It's been a crazy week.
Yeah.
I feel like we needed something in the middle to like buffer the craziness. So we need like finally the 7th season of Community, or like the Community movie, just to like make it a little bit, make some transition be a little bit easier.
Alien Contact, maybe could have been nice. It's definitely, our hearts go out to everybody in the middle of that fucking conflict right now. Like in an age of information, it's like hard not to just scroll through the Ukraine subreddit or something. And get the latest.
Ukraine combat footage, all of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty crazy stuff.
How you doing, Patrick?
Yeah. I'm doing okay. I mean, all things considered, personally, things are pretty fine. Yeah. I don't know. What do you say when like stuff like this is happening? It's tricky, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more, but
I think what you've just said is a perfectly valid thing to say in and of itself, Patrick.
Thanks for validating
You're welcome.
Me.
Yeah. I'll validate you 9 times out of 10.
9 out of 10 Davids agree.
Right. Yeah. We are a consortium of doctors.
Yeah.
I
don't know. That's me. Is there anything? There's no fourth person to ask how they're doing, huh? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Other than that, I've been like a lounge lizard, man. I've just been hanging out playing video games. I've been playing tons of video games, so expect a little bit longer of a games we've been playing segment this week.
Yeah, I think one thing too is around here the weather's been pretty nasty, and so that's been contributing to a sort of down mood. And we had some illness in our house, and we couldn't go anywhere. And then it was bad weather, and finally the sun's out. It's a little bit warming up, so hopefully everybody's mood can brighten, and peace can spread across the land.
Yeah, that's what we needed. Yeah. I did walk just under 10,000 steps in Pikmin Bloom yesterday, so I do occasionally still fire up the old bloomometer.
Nice. Well, y'all, let's talk about last week's episode. We did an episode on the eShops that are closing for the Wii U and 3DS in the relatively near future. And we got some nice comments and discussion as always in the Discord, but also outside of that, Vincent Goodwin on the Facebook page talked about had a couple of interesting things. And one of the ones I thought was interesting, one of the things he said was talking just about how games need to have a more of a catalog model where, it's there's no movie platform where you can't find The Godfather, right? Like, but Chrono Trigger, for example, isn't on the Switch or major platforms like that and stuff like that. I think that's a fair point that just the way that video games are distributed and these classic games is sort of a problem.
I tell you what, though, you cannot get Call Me Brother on Amazon.com. For content.
godfather.
Can you stream it
of
on Amazon
sibling.
Prime Video though?
It's not on the streaming service, and it's not available for VOD. You can buy the Blu-ray from the store, but it's not available digitally on Amazon.com. Bezos hates the content of my movie.
There's gotta be worse. Anyway, let's not.
No, this podcast is now about my feature film, Call Me Brother.
Speaking of filmmakers, on Twitter, David Ward said they saw the tweet about our episode right after turning off their Wii U for the evening. So it's still.
Okay.
And then I just wanted to mention too, Michael Domingue, our guest last week, shared like a post, somebody holding up a picture of like the poster at a wrestling match, like the Wii U had good games or something like that.
The Wii U wasn't that bad, something like that.
Yeah, like got a lot of traction, so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I think, we always appreciate hearing from our listeners and viewers. So if you're out there, we'd love to hear from you. Stop by the Discord or the Facebook group, leave a message, send us a DM, leave a review somewhere online, share the podcast online, and like and subscribe on YouTube.
Yes, please.
We don't have a ton of news items, but I think they're all chunky. So obviously, the big thing that's just happening in the news of the world is the conflict, the invasion of the Ukraine from Russia. And it's affecting, of course, every industry in that region and the world, right? Like, there's a lot of game developers in Ukraine, actually. And there's been some of them have put out statements, and this is kind of an evolving story as well, because the assault on Ukraine is intensified in short term. But something I read is just like, a lot of people didn't evacuate just because this has been kind of everything happening so fast, and also they've kind of lived with this shadow for a long time, and I think a lot of people just assume the best, right? Like so I don't know, there's some good articles out there if you want to hear specifically about game devs in the area, and I know other game devs in Europe and have been like organizing ways to help as well. And then we also have the sanctions issue, which we were just talking about before the show, and I think that might actually affect me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
they very well could,
because I am doing some freelance game work for people in that region of the world. So there's been some changes in the short term that I haven't fully absorbed.
I know also Ukraine is a very large manufacturer of semiconductors as well. And then obviously, oil and natural gas out of Russia and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of shipping supply line issues that have already been happening are going to be intensified, as well as food. A lot of wheat comes out of Ukraine, especially for Europe. So a lot of supply line issues you can definitely expect that will be, having an impact on the games industry. And then, just overall, I mean, it's a humanitarian crisis, and it's just like a full scale, like invasion. You don't really see like this that much in these days. And so it just kind of like brings a lot of the modern world to a standstill. I know there are a lot of game developers out of Ukraine that are giving lots of their proceeds as well to help the Ukrainian people. So definitely worth checking some of those out.
And then we'll now be talking about lesser things for a while. I don't know how to segue away from war, right?
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, now we're going to go back to like fun, happy times. Sort of, I guess. I don't know. So in the gaming news, Nintendo has acquired a studio that it's been working with forever. So it's kind of that makes it sound bigger than it is, but SRD, who, as I understand it, SRD like exists kind of within Nintendo already, but we're just a separate entity. They're
in the same building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just making official something. But I guess they've been around and kind of maybe doing more focused on like programming and coding and that sort of thing, as I understand it, since back in the NES days, and have worked on all sorts of games over the years, and are now officially a, I guess, subsidiary or whatever of Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, SRD, they're like a support studio, right? They're like people that have always pretty much their entire catalog is Nintendo games already. And I think the reason they got acquired was two of the founders of the company were retiring, and basically sold the company to Nintendo because they didn't want to run it anymore because they were retiring. So that's basically it. You guys want to wager a guess on how much Nintendo paid to acquire this studio? Bear in mind that Sony paid many billions of dollars for Bungie.
$1. I don't know. I'm going for the low one.
30 million yen.
Oh. Yeah,
actually,
that's about right. Okay, well, let's go with dollars. It was about $400,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So Nintendo, big Daddy Warbucks money. Nintendo dropping a cool $400K on this company they've been working with for 30 years. Just shows a bit of the difference between Eastern and Western game acquisition services. So, yeah.
And then there was a big Pokemon Presents event that happened I guess it was that yesterday? Yeah, it was February 27th.
Doesn't that seem like a week ago already?
It really does.
It's kind of tucking down. Maybe it's just all the illustrations and memes I'm already seeing from this thing.
It was real early in the morning too, so there's been 2 whole days of
pretty much
like you're saying
of waking time. Yeah.
So there were a lot of things at this event, but of course the biggest one is that there's a new pair of Pokemon games coming out sometime later this year. We have Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet coming out, presumably towards the end of the year, but I don't think there was any window beyond just the year, right?
It said, yeah, I don't know. I guess it said late 2022, I believe.
Okay.
Is what it said. You have to imagine they're trying to hit November, right? That's when Pokemon games come out usually.
Yeah.
So,
So I guess they showed off the starters, and that's what's generating a lot of that content that you're talking about, right? Set in sort of a Spanish themed region, right? Based on Spain. And so the anime or the characters like clothes, and then the names of the Pokemon.
Sprigatito.
Yeah. Little cat.
No, the 420 Blaze-It cat.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no name that screams Spain more than Quaxley.
Very Spanish.
It's like two Spaniards and just like a random British guy.
Donald Trump the duck. Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to talk about here. I mean, the Pokemon Presents as a whole on Pokemon Day was pretty lackluster up until that point. And then, obviously they started showing the trailer. I mean, there's a update for Arceus coming soon.
Yeah, but
so we all
huge.
Totally. And I thought that what they were going to do this year was to support Arceus with DLC through the end of the year, right? So when they showed that Arceus stuff earlier, I was like, wait, okay, what is actually going to be here? And then that whole weird live action section leading into the trailer, really thought that was going to be Detective Pikachu 2, right? Because it looks like it was like a cop or like an investigator of some nature, and it like held on this cup of coffee for like a couple seconds, and Detective Pikachu famously loves coffee. And so, yeah, but then they kind of surprised everybody with this new Gen 9 announcement. What do you think about this? I mean, that's going to be 3 major Pokemon games for the Switch within 12 months.
Hey, man, I'm still stuck on the security guard. Like, what's he doing? What's he searching for? Why is he there? Did someone hire him?
I don't have
am
the
I
answers.
alone? Am I alone on this?
No, it made
one
no
wants that.
sense to me. I don't get what the whole point of that was.
He's just like wandering down this hallway with a flashlight.
Yeah, and it's not even like a Spanish security guy. He's like clearly a Japanese guy.
Yeah. And then he opens the door and he gets transported to this like workshop that came from a building.
Yeah.
Is the security guard us as we enter the Pokemon universe?
Yes.
Listen, I want lore, David and Patrick.
We'll have to wait until the game comes out. But I mean, I am disappointed, honestly, by this. You know what I mean? Because I just think that this is way too soon to come out with this game after Arceus. You know what I mean? I mean, clearly this game and Arceus were being developed at the same time, right? And they're using Arceus as kind of its jumping off point, right? Like the game they've advertised, they said it's going to be fully open world. They said that seamlessly travel between the open world and cities, which are going to be their own thing. So it's not going to be like Arceus's kind of semi-open world situation. So that's cool. But then it also it's like a regular gen thing. So it's like they're taking some of the stuff from Arceus and then bringing back some of the battle mechanics. Like I don't think you're just going to be able to just throw Pokeballs like you could in Arceus, right? But regardless, I just think it's like Arceus came out like a month ago, you know, and it's like they're already prepping this game, and I just feel like they haven't had enough time to really learn from Arceus. You know what I mean? They're like, or are they going to like spend the rest of the year like crunching in order to get this thing out and trying to like fix a lot of the issues that people had with Arceus? Or like, I don't know. It just feels like they're working way too fast for me. And I understand they're tied to a huge trademark and they've got anime that is going to be happening and they got to sync up all this shit, right, with all the rest of their merchandising and everything. But I just wish that they had taken a year off and given this game. I'm just worried that this game is also going to feel like a rushed patch job, like some things with Arceus did.
I'm sure it will. I mean, I don't have a lot of loyalty or any to Pokemon. And I don't even, I've not played that much, but this is part of my problem with it. Like the games, they come out too fast. It feels like by the time, you play one, the next one's on the horizon. It's the same problem I have with like, Madden and stuff like that and Call of Duty. And it's just that cycle of yearly releases. I guess those at least, and kind of know, like, you know what I mean? There's like a clear, like they put them out once a year at this time usually. And, but like, yeah, it's too much. Like you said, I just feel like it kind of invalidates Arceus. If there are people like me who aren't super interested in Pokemon, it's kind of hard for me to pick an entry point here because the next one's on the horizon and I feel like they're all rushed and I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, Austin hopped in the Discord like a couple days ago and was like, hey, Arceus is out. Should I buy it? And I feel like that with the announcement of this game, maybe a person like Austin who hasn't played Arceus would be like, maybe I should just wait.
It's not that long to wait. And
I know it just really
better, right? Like if it's got a more open world vibe and they fix some of those issues,
Yeah, for sure. And that's what we were saying when we did our episode on Arceus, right? Is that this felt like a stepping stone. But now it really fucking feels like that. It feels like it was like a bunch of people bought a beta for the next Pokemon game now. It's like what it really feels like, right? And it's like, but even then I just know they're not going to learn lessons from the things that people didn't like about that game, Like, I mean, granted the graphics look a little bit better. The characters they almost look more like Pokemon Snap humans, you know what I mean? Everything's got like a little bit better lighting and all that kind of stuff, but it still looks like a Game Freak game, And so it's like, I don't know, we'll see. It's just hard for me to get excited for this right now because like I don't know that I want to play two mainline Pokemon games within 10 months of each other, it just seems like a lot. So anyway, that's
I wonder like what's the timeline here? So it's either it's using the same engine, right? It looks similar. Let's say it's Scarlet and Violet are running off the Arceus engine. And so at some point, you make a business decision to split off the games. Or maybe they were working on both of them at the same time, one team, and maybe Arceus was going to be DLC, or maybe Scarlet and Violet were going to be DLC for Arceus. And you make the choice to make them separate titles, separate SKUs, because they feel so close together that they were developed in tandem, but they were released separately. When you could very well make the decision to make one DLC of the other, whichever way you choose.
Sure, yeah. Or I mean, it also just makes me feel this really just knowing this game exists and is coming out this year already just makes me resent Arceus so much. And it's like, I just because this game is coming out at the end of this year, that means that Arceus was rushed to get out as well. And that's something that Arceus clearly needed a little bit more time in the oven. It's a great game. It's probably the best Pokemon game ever, right? But it could have really been a Breath of the Wild moment, right? Like a real it could have just had so much more polish and care and attention added to it, but you just know that, I don't know, whatever. I just think that they need to spend more time between these big tentpole releases. I think 2 big releases in 1 year just seems like super sus to me.
I also just think it's the time they announce it, right? The Arceus came out roughly a month ago.
Its body is still warm.
If this announcement, if they held this announcement,
Arceus is dead.
That's what the security guard was.
It's a postmortem. Yeah.
Okay. If they had held this announcement for 3 months, give us this in, I don't know, May, give us this at E3 or something, then I feel like maybe some of these things we're talking about wouldn't even feel that way. It wouldn't feel like, oh, another Pokemon game. We would kind of have forgotten about Arceus and be like, oh, another Pokemon game. I don't know.
Yeah. If this had been Let's Go Johto or something like that, I wouldn't have felt the same way, right? But it's a main line coming after Arceus, which was kind of pitched as a main line, even though it's very much a spinoff. It just feels weird. I think we should also maybe talk about the elephant in the room, which is we now have pretty much a holiday. This is Nintendo's big holiday game. So what does that mean for? I mean, okay, you shrug, but I mean,
I do.
But I mean,
look, I'm not buying.
No, but I mean, 28 million people are going to buy it within fucking a week. You know what I mean? This thing is going to be a massive seller, especially it's going to be a massive seller. Just look at the fucking starters. People are going crazy, right? So what does this mean for Breath of the Wild? Is Breath of the Wild still have a spot this year? Because I don't see Breath of the Wild coming out earlier than November. Yeah. They're putting Breath of the Wild out in December?
I don't know. But I don't personally feel like this 100%. Well, nothing 100% gets rid of it until they sell us that, right? But
yeah,
I still kind of think Matthew also was going to agree that I still feel like it's possible. I feel like the audiences are slightly different. They're both going to sell well regardless. And maybe Nintendo's trying to have just a awesome 2022. I don't know that they'll eat each other's sales, but it's definitely a risk.
In the same way that there are 1 million tactical JRPGs coming out this year, there are also 1 million open world massive JRPGs coming out this year as well, right? Elden Ring, fucking maybe Breath of the Wild, this new Pokemon Arceus, and this new open world one, and Xenoblade, and potentially Breath of the Wild. It's just so jam packed with a lot of similar content. It just makes me wonder what their release strategy is.
Yeah. That's a good call, because you always hear that they hold things, and it's
right,
they really are gonna put out Xenoblade 3 in September, this Pokemon game in November, and
Bayonetta is probably in October, right?
That's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a big year.
I know, and we haven't even gotten the summer direct yet. So there's also stuff we don't know when it's coming later this year, or stuff that we don't even know exists yet, right?
Yeah, WWE Battlegrounds 2 is coming.
NBA Street 4.
Yeah. I don't think Pokemon's release affects Breath of the Wild's release date. If you're going to buy Pokemon, you're going to buy it. If you're going to buy Breath of the Wild, you're going to buy it. I don't think they cannibalize each other's sales too much.
they have long tails too. Like at least their predecessors have been continuously selling games. So maybe that's.
I can say Pokemon definitely has long tails.
Yeah, I was gonna. Some Pokemon definitely have long tails.
Some got short, cute ones.
Gyarados is mostly tail.
He's all tail. Yeah,
he's tail of the face.
Yeah.
Is there anything else y'all want to talk about with Pokemon? Should we move on?
Yeah, I'm over
it. we said the things. We're moving on. So this past week, there was some talk about the F-Zero game that was supposed to come out on the Virtual Boy. So this would have been the second, I guess, F-Zero game, if I'm not mistaken. So it was like, I think it was discussed apparently, which I didn't even know this. It was discussed in some like old Nintendo Powers and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then there was somebody who used to work at Nintendo that went on to Did You Know Gaming. And I guess Jim Warnell, a former Nintendo of America employee, who talked about that they worked as an associate producer on this game, and like that it was like all ready to go. It had been rated. They had like packaged it and all that stuff. And the only reason it didn't ever come out was just because the big flop of the Virtual Boy. So I guess it was going to be called Zero Racers. Originally going to be called G-Zero and then shifted to Zero Racers. But boy, that would have given us a headache, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The F-Zero game on the Virtual Boy.
Yeah. And I remember reading about this a while ago, you know, as a big F-Zero fan myself. G-Zero has been kind of like an oft discussed rumored game that never came out. But it was nice to get like confirmation, and just so tantalizing to hear that the whole thing was completed and never shipped. But I mean, that's true with a lot of Virtual Boy games. There are tons. I mean, if you want to just go through the list of canceled Virtual Boy games, like Nintendo really had their sights set really high for this thing. 'Cause why wouldn't they? They were at the top of their game. They were selling tons of units of everything else. And then this was their first like real massive flop, you know? And yeah, so they definitely had a lot in the oven that was canceled. And this looked pretty cool. It's cool to see like screenshots of it and everything.
Yeah.
Hopefully that leaks. It's a shame this wasn't a part of the Giga Leak.
Yeah. And then next up, mentioned at the top of the show as well, Smash. Super Smash Bros. In any shape or form is not going to be at EVO 2022. So EVO, it's just a fighting game tournament, has had some version of Super Smash Brothers at it for a long time now. I think it's like 15-ish years.
Yeah.
And as we discussed a while back, EVO didn't happen last year because of the pandemic, but also it got Sony bought EVO, right? Sometime last year.
Yeah, it looks like March of 2021. So
whenever that happened, we speculated, what does that mean for like Nintendo games being at EVO? Well, here you go. EVO put out a statement saying that, it's saying it's Nintendo's not basically right. That's not letting Super Smash Brothers be at EVO. So it's a bit of a bummer, I guess. Also, we got that news a while back that Nintendo was going to partner with Panda for specific Smash Brothers fighting tournaments and that sort of thing. So it looks like they really want to do their own thing, and
they want to run their own show. Yeah. They want to have their own orange chicken at Panda. I'm sorry. I'm in a weird mood today. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that this is partly Nintendo. I think this is also partly Sony. You know what I mean? I bet Sony was like, okay, yeah, well, you want to be involved? You're going to have to fucking X, Y, and Z and do the blah, 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 blah. Because now they're like a big corporation running this fucking thing instead of the fans. And Nintendo was like, oh, cool. Fuck that. We're going to go partner with Panda and do this instead. Right. And so I don't think this one, I have no knowledge of this. It's just, this one doesn't smell to me just like Nintendo bullshit. Like this, we talked about this, right? I mean, this is what happens when you bring lots of big money into what were originally fan-run events. And EVO turned into something much bigger than that, obviously. But Yeah, I think you got to put some of the onus on Sony for this one.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. Like Evo, when Sony bought Evo, Evolution Championship Series, they said, welcome Evo to the PlayStation brand. So now Evo is a Sony PlayStation product. So it'd be weird to fit either like not just Nintendo, but like any other competitor into a Sony brand, a Sony product. So I'm not surprised.
This is not surprising. It was sad though, and it is the end of an era. Evo, like Smash at Evo, Smash Melee at Evo is always a blast to watch. So I hope it finds a footing in whatever they're doing with Panda.
And then also in other console news, Steam, Valve, the Steam Deck has come out. February 25th was the big day.
And I got one right here. Oh, wait.
Wait, wrong thing. So yeah, on February 25th, they started sending out emails and the review embargo lifted. And theoretically, they were shipping to customers around the 25th. So people should start receiving them around the time this comes out, right? Like,
oh yeah, I think people are starting to get them tomorrow, like on the 1st. Except for the people that had them hand delivered to them in the Seattle area by Gabe Newell. They got theirs a little bit early.
Yeah, I saw that.
For a photo op. Yeah.
Even people who didn't order it, apparently. He was just like, you get a Steam Deck.
Yeah. There were these guys moving. He's like, I think we have a couple extras. Here you go. I was like, what the fuck, man? People in Q1 still haven't gotten their emails yet. Come on.
So, what do y'all think? There's been lots of reviews and like people doing analysis of the settings and what runs on it, what it looks like, and the emulation abilities of it. Does anybody want to give a short version of what they've encountered? Or it looks pretty good. Sounds like getting pretty good reviews, right?
David, you might be the man for this job.
Okay, sure. Yeah. I mean, I've been soaking up Steam Deck information like it's fucking cocaine. This is how I do cocaine, by the way. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it looks great. I already was hyped and was ready to draw. I put down for the most expensive model, like an idiot. But I actually think it's fine. I mean, I feel very confident about the model that I went for. I'm confident about purchasing it whenever it becomes my turn to get the privilege to be able to pay for this thing. Yeah, I mean, it just everyone's saying Steam Deck does what Nintendo don't, right? And it's like really does feel that way. It's like watching it just in terms of the sheer amount of control and options and everything that we all complain about the Switch, the Steam Deck fixes, right? Like it's got built-in mics that just immediately connect to Steam voice chat, and you can immediately talk to people. It cancels out game audio from the speakers, and it's got 2 mics, so it sounds really, really good. It's got, the ability to limit it to 30 frames per second or unlock it to 60 frames per second and have worse battery life, right? It's like a lot of games that we want to play in higher quality on the Switch, we play at 30 and we're like, okay, well, we have to do that, right? Well, the Steam Deck is like, no, you don't have to do that. You'll just get an hour and a half of battery life if you want to pump this shit up to ultra settings or whatever, right? And so it's like, it definitely just seems, and not, emulation, like you were just saying, I was watching somebody play F-Zero GX on it earlier. You've got, all the way up to PS2 and PS3 emulation runs on this thing. And just seeing what it can do as like a Linux computer as well, makes it really attractive. So I'm definitely excited about it. It seems like the kind of critical consensus right now is that it's an amazing piece of tech that is burdened by software or OS clunkiness and compatibility issues with games right now, right? But that's stuff that over the next few months, they're putting out updates to the Steam OS every single day. They're adding more and more games to the Steam Deck verified stuff every day. So I'm pretty confident, but by the time that it comes my turn to pick up one of these things, not being in that Q1 batch of early adopters is going to have worked out for me, because it's going to be like, okay, here's all this custom made shit through Linux that you can install that's just going to make your life so much easier, right? And all the real eggheads have gone in and already done everything they're going to do with it. So I'm very excited about this thing. I think it looks great. Whenever it comes out, we'll certainly do an episode on just kind of Steam Deck Switch comparisons, because I think that's worth talking about. And I think there's a lot that Nintendo can learn, and not just Nintendo, but I think the gaming industry at large, the console manufacturing industry at large, can learn a lot from what Valve is doing right here. I'm very excited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with almost all of your points, especially the point of like it is in a really good state, but I'm also a Q2 person. Once I get my Q2 version, I think all the kinks will be worked out, hopefully. David, did you watch Linus Tech Tips review?
I did, yeah.
I think he presented the narrative that I responded to the most, which was generally like, this is the type of handheld we've been asking for a really long time. Something really that allows us tinkerers to install the things that we want to do, play the games we want to play, and play with the people who we want to play with by installing Windows and all these other different options. And that's what the freedom to have some level of freedom to tinker on this hardware, something I've always wanted to do, where it wasn't like an atrocious mod where you have to download something from the Wii U and you need to soft mod it. There's all of these steps.
And it's encouraged, right? It's like
exactly.
and SteamOS is open source as well, which is something I think is really great. Is that, you know, there are all these competitors that are making their own, you know, albeit much more expensive versions of the Steam Deck, right? Like the closest competitor that's out there is like $1,400 or something like that with the Aya Neo Next, right? And that's a very attractive system as well, but it just runs Windows and that's it. But you can install SteamOS on it and have a way better version because SteamOS is open source. And so it's like Steam is kind of like leveraging their market value and the amount of money that they make through Steam to take a huge, massive loss on the actual manufacturing of this hardware, thinking that it'll get way more people to buy software, which is how they're going to offset the price, right? So they're in a position to where they can make this competitively priced. But I think in doing that, they're also kind of forcing the hands of the rest of the, hardware manufacturers. And I think that we might see a nice return to form for handheld gaming coming pretty soon. I hope to see a device similar to this from Microsoft or from Sony. Now that the Switch is successful and the Steam Deck hopefully turns out to be a success, I think this could start a new age of handheld gaming.
Awesome. Well, hopefully, we'll continue to have more to talk about with this as people get their more and more regular folks get their hands on it. And then moving on to our last bit of news, which kind of relates to our main topic, is that the NSO, Nintendo Switch Online, the N64 app, which you get if you're part of the expansion pack, Majora's Mask was added, which is, part of this big update, but they've also continued to tweak the emulator that runs on the app. And apparently it's up to version 2.0 now. And data miners such as Oatmeal Dome, who have been kind of tracking the updates to this, say that there's been a number of sort of configuration updates to the emulator, but that in particular, one thing they pointed out that's been something people have been trotting out throughout this whole N64 app is that the water temple in Ocarina of Time is improved. The fog is back, right? The fog was not there.
The reflections on the water are back. Yeah. All the graphical bugs.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's been some other tweaks to the emulator as well, but that's sort of I don't know what you want to call it. That
was the one room in the one temple in the one game on that service that made everybody be like, the expansion pack is not worth it. And they finally fixed that one room. And now all these YouTubers are like, I was wrong about Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack or whatever. No, it's just funny to see. But it's like, it's great. I think that's excellent that they're fixing these emulation problems, right? It shows that it wasn't just gross incompetence. It was just emulation is hard. And they listened to the feedback and they fucking worked on it. They figured it out. And they fix it. Choco Mountain has fog again now in Mario Kart 8. I think the Paper Mario glitch that was deleting save data, that's fixed. I've yet to see if they've done anything to emulate memory card packs for like win back or anything like that. That's the one thing that I wish they would still work on. But it's nice to see this app get updates, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, I think that does it then, right? For our news section, we're going to, in light of this release of Majora's Mask, we're going to do one of our ranking episodes. We're going to come back after this break and talk all about what the official, objective, 100% best 3D Zelda game is, and then what the worst is as well, all the way down to the worst. So when we come back. All right, we're back, and this week we are doing an official Switch Headz ranking of the 3D Zelda games. Majora's Mask was just added to the NSO service for expansion pack subscribers. And so a lot of people maybe who haven't had a chance to play this game before, maybe even people like me who are going to rank it, now have their opportunity to. But we are going to be going through, as we do in these rankings episodes, and start with sort of in a chronological order and kind of determine where each game slots in around the other games, and end with an official ranking of best to worst 3D Zelda games. So there's been a lot of Zelda games, but maybe not as many 3D games as you might imagine. I don't know. It's not a small batch, but what are there? 7?
I was surprised. 6? Yeah, there's really 6, right?
There's gonna be 7 later this year, theoretically.
Yeah. I was surprised. I was looking at the list and I saw the list of games and I was like, oh shit, I guess there are only 6 3D Zelda games. Feels like there were more. How many 3D Mario games were there in our ranking?
There aren't that many of those either, right?
Right.
So it's probably about the same. I don't know off the top of my head.
That one at least had like Mario 3D Land, right? For the 3DS.
Sort of in-betweens.
Right. And so it's like, you can't really count a game like A Link Between Worlds, which was kind of the big 3DS Zelda game, because it's 3D, but it's still a top-down game, right?
So still a 2D game.
Right. It's technically a 2D game. And so it's like same for that. The Link's Awakening remake, we're not counting that in this list. And then also I think we should just, before we get into it, let's get it out of the way. We're not going to be counting the Hyrule Warriors games in this as well.
No, and
those don't count as 3D Zelda games.
They are 3D games. Though you pointed this out whenever we were discussing them. They are not The Legend of Zelda.
Right.
Hyrule Warrior. They are a separate series.
These are 3 games that take place in 3 dimensions that are called The Legend of Zelda :
Yes.
Yeah.
And Hyrule Warriors is not one of them.
Yeah.
Neither.
Or Age of Calamity. Yeah,
either.
Exactly.
Okay. So, Zelda moved into 3D in 1998 on the Nintendo 64, the N64, with The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, which was a mind-blowing game. I have the picture of me getting it at Christmas at the ripe age of 16, 17, whatever that was then. And I should be able to do that math, right? I just said the year. But anyway, I remember that coming out and just being mind-blowing, right? Like to play Zelda and it was just a great game.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely genre-defying. It was also genre-defining, which is what I meant to say, but I'd say it's both. Yeah, I think I mean, it fucking inspired me to write fan fiction at an early age, right? Like, it was an absolutely awe-inspiring experience for me. I'd never quite played a game that felt that large, that felt that impactful on a story level and from a gameplay perspective. Yeah, and I mean, I think to this day, up until Breath of the Wild, most 3D Zelda games just felt like Ocarina of Time, right? I mean, it was like they all used the same systems, they all used the same Z targeting mechanic, they all used the same kind of structure, right? So it was absolutely a huge game in the series.
And it's open world-ish, like depending on how you want to define that term. I mean, I think it definitely is an open world game, and that also felt really, to me, like you run or ride the horse from here to there, and like you could just go wherever you wanted, sort of with some things gated off, but like that was super impressive at the time, especially.
Yeah, I mean, and to its credit, A Link to the Past was as well, and even the first Zelda game, The Legend of Zelda for the NES, was also open world. But it's like as soon as you add that 3-dimensional element, the ability to move the camera, the ability to look wherever you want from any angle, it really did set the bar for 3D games and open world 3D games going forward. Yeah,
that's funny that you say that. Yeah, because it's like it felt bigger, even if maybe it's not. It felt bigger to run around in this than say like, A Link to the Past or whatever. Just because you weren't just holding left, you could, kind of look around and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, there's that feeling that Breath of the Wild reminded me of being able to see the town or the Gerudo Valley from the hub world. You might not be able to go there yet, but the fact that you see it, you can go towards it, but might not be able to get there. It just creates this sense of adventure. And this is what Ocarina of Time did for me too.
So Ocarina of Time is going to be our, starting point, right? So it is currently the official best and worst 3D Zelda game because we haven't ranked anything else yet. So next up, we're going to be talking about Majora's Mask. Real briefly, at least, Majora's Mask 2000, just a couple years later, came out also on the Nintendo 64, now available on NSO. This is a game I'm not very familiar with. I have not played it. I've watched it be played a little bit, and I'm now excited to really fully dig into it. So my opinions on this are pretty formless, other than what I've picked up from the zeitgeist as well as observed. But I know a lot of people love this game, a little darker in tone, a little more unusual in terms of the whole mask element and some other things. So I'd love for one of y'all to talk about your experiences of this game, or what defines it, maybe.
David, you're on deck because I too have not played Majora's Mask.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, guys.
This is gonna be talked before rank.
We talked before this on it's like, hey, maybe actually we should bring somebody on for this episode. And we were like, no, we'll be fine.
It's official.
Well, first of all, I can't believe, Matt, that you've never played this game. I knew you hadn't, Patrick, and I expect that from you. But no, I'm just kidding. No, but I mean, Majora's Mask is a game that when it came out, I resented it quite a bit. I think
that's why I was afraid. I was afraid to play Majora's Mask because I didn't want it to taint my memories of Ocarina of Time.
Well, it's not even that. I mean, like, it was just Ocarina of Time was such a masterpiece right out the gate that trying to one up it was going to be impossible. It was just going to be impossible, right? Like, you couldn't just like make an Ocarina of Time but better and have it be satisfying for people, right? Because they would just be like, okay, well, that's just basically a master quest or whatever, right? So actually the story of like how the game came around is like really fucking fascinating given what the game ended up being, right? Like they decided to, instead of just making another Ocarina of Time, really get weird with it and strange. And also they wanted to just do a master quest, right? Like Shigeru Miyamoto was like, I just want you guys to put out a master quest for this game, basically make an expanded version. And Aonuma at the time was like, I don't want to do that. I want to make a whole brand new game. And Shigeru Miyamoto was like, all right, well, we need something out next year. And so basically all of Majora's Mask was made in 1 year. Like, it's such an incredibly fast development time for such a unique game. And the way they did that was just reusing a lot of the assets, right? A lot of the character models, same engine, a lot of similar characters just in it in general, right? Is what they ended up doing. But they got really creative with the narrative. And, obviously if you've never played this game, it's a game that takes place over 3 days. And the moon, this like big, terrifying moon, is about to crash into Termina. I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce that. And so the whole kind of plot of the game is like figuring out how to stop the moon from crashing into the earth and killing everybody on the planet. And so it's like right off the bat, it's got this like really nihilistic, dark tone to it. Which as I'm older, I appreciate a lot more than when I was younger, right? It just was kind of weird to me when I was younger, right? And also something I really didn't like about it when I was younger was the time limit, right? Like it was like, what I loved about Zelda was exploring and doing things at my own pace and really getting out there into the world and just kind of, exploring this at the time massive open world, and while there is still an open world element to Majora's Mask, you're kind of hamstrung at times by the deadline of the 3-day thing. But the thing is, with retrospect, obviously you can just turn back time. You don't have to beat it in like an in-game 72 hours. You can turn back time and all that kind of stuff. And so it's a game that with time, I appreciate a lot more than when I was younger. And I think it's a lot more inventive than Ocarina of Time in a lot of ways when you consider A Link to the Past was the game that preceded Ocarina of Time, and those are kind of thematically similar.
I think at the time, too, I thought it was just weird visually with seeing Link in these masks or costumes where he was transformed into these other beings, and I found that weird, but now I don't care. Like, now, now I'm like, cool, right? Something different. That's good, right? Like,
it's got a decent amount of like body horror in it. Like you can hear like his bones crunching and moving as his body transforms and stuff like that. It's pretty weird.
Yeah, and they have those close zooms on his face where it looks like Link is in pain as he transforms.
Yeah. I mean, something else at the time that I didn't quite like about this game so much was, and this is something we'll get to with Wind Waker, is like, you just like were a badass Link in Ocarina of Time, and you kind of like went back to being a kid in this game, and you were like a kid the entire game. And so like for me, somebody that grew really attached to the adult form of Link from Ocarina of Time, it made it a little bit of a tough pill to swallow, as I'm like, a fucking boy trying to be like all cool about everything, right? It was like, I don't want to be a kid again. But it's all stuff that later on you're just like, man, the inventiveness of this game, it just feels like a fucking David Lynch movie or something. You know what I mean? It's like got a crazy atmosphere that you can't deny.
Well, David, help us place this game. Do you think that Majora's Mask is better than Ocarina of Time?
I mean, I'd love to be an edgelord and say yes. Because a lot of people are right now. There's a lot of that sentiment going around the internet now that Majora's Mask is out, and they're like, oh, it's way better. And like Ocarina of Time was like always uninspired and blah, 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 blah. But I just don't think I can in good conscience say that Majora's Mask is a better game than Ocarina of Time. I think that Ocarina of Time just as a product had so much more time and clearly love and effort put into the game. And Majora's Mask, while it is incredibly inventive and is tonally taut, has problems, right? I mean, I feel like Majora's Mask is a game that's like almost impossible to complete without a guide. There are tons of side quests and no good way to really keep track of them, which leads to a lot of confusion. And a lot of them, you can't really beat the game unless you complete them, right? So it's, I would say yes, especially if we're talking about the original releases of these games. I would say so. Now, if we were talking about the 3DS versions, I actually really love the 3DS version of Majora's Mask. And I do think the 3DS version of Majora's Mask overall is a better game, just from, all the good things that we were talking about. It keeps all the good stuff while mitigating a lot of the bad stuff that we were talking about, right? But if we're talking about just the originals, which I think we are for the sake of argument, I'm going to say that Ocarina of Time is better than Majora's Mask, but they're both great.
Well, as somebody who hasn't played it, I agree.
Tell me your plan to play this game. When are you going to play it? It's available now.
I was actually planning to at least dabble with it last night, so I could be like, I played it a little bit, but I didn't get to it.
I love how you guys just always have my back on the show,
Yeah, always. My plan currently is I gotta beat Horizon. We'll see how that goes. And then we'll play Majora's Mask. I think probably after that, because then there's so many games out this year. I still gotta play Earthbound. I gotta complete Earthbound rather. So
I really recommend it. It's an experience unlike any other.
All right. Well, we should move to the next one then. And there's gonna be a little bit of a theme here that I haven't played some of these games. I have also never played the next one on this list, which is Wind Waker, a 2002 game for the GameCube. GameCube's a huge blind spot for me. I also can't talk a lot about this one, but I know that at least kind of on release, kind of like what you were talking about with Majora's Mask, there was a lot of pushback about the art style in this game. It's a very different game in terms of the water element, right? That was sort of a meme too, right? So this game, but I think as this game has aged, people have maybe appreciated it more.
That's a running theme you'll see with a lot of Zelda games. Yeah,
that's true. Any memories from y'all, or any specific talk about Wind Waker as its own thing?
I love Wind Waker so much. I think the way, David, that you talk about Ocarina of Time and its formative experience for you is the way that I feel about Wind Waker. The idea about sailing with the King of Red Lions for the first time, and the music, and having the little wind animations, and seeing the cell shaded water, that just unlocked a whole new gaming experience for me. And I love Wind Waker and all of its music, and great characters, dungeon design. I could go on, and its effect on the greater Zelda, whatever the timeline is. I just love Wind Waker so much. It's the game I think about, other than Breath of the Wild. It's the Zelda game that I suggest to people to play.
Oh, really? Yeah. This game desperately needs to come to the Switch with a lot of the Wii U enhancements that came out, because the HD version of Wind Waker is absolutely fantastic. I got it right back there behind me. Maybe I'll sell it if it ever comes to the Switch, but not for now. I've got actually two versions of Wind Waker back there. I got the GameCube version and the Wii U version right next to each other. I also love this game. Despite owning it twice over, I have never actually beaten this game. But that's not a huge surprise for me. I don't beat a lot of games. But I do love Wind Waker very much. And it's a game that I did resent also as a child. We'll get to it with the next game, but it's like I really wanted something like Twilight Princess. But then I realized later that it's like a Wind Waker is what I really needed this whole time. You know what I mean? It's like, it's colorful, it's vibrant, it's beautiful, it's got soul and heart, and it's aged probably the best out of any of the Zelda games. I think that it's timeless in both its graphical style and the way that it tells its story. Wind Waker is a fantastic game. One of these days I'll actually beat it. Love the game. But now we have to rank it, and now it's going to get controversial.
It's one of the best pirate games out there too.
Yeah, it's this and Black Flag.
Yeah, that's it. And Sea of Thieves.
No Sea of Thieves. They don't count. No, I'm just kidding.
Sid Meier's Pirates.
Yeah. So, Matt, let's start with you. Where would you put this in the ranking so far, considering that you haven't played one of the three games we've discussed?
I love Wind Waker more than Ocarina of Time.
Really?
Yes, 100%.
Okay, see, I love Majora's Mask more than I love Wind Waker.
Well, having never played it,
Yeah, where do you
or
stand,
Majora's
Patrick?
Mask. I was going to suggest that we put it between those two, which
I mean,
is
that's
the obvious choice because we have to now.
Well, if I think it's third and Matt thinks it's first, I think we have to compromise with second place, right?
And that's my vote.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
it hurts me to see Majora's Mask pushed down to the bottom like this, but that's
bye.
That's the nature of a list with only 6 things in it.
Yeah, there's no 0.5s here, right? We're stuck with it. We're stuck.
Now the Hyrule Warriors are the 0.5s.
Okay, so we're moving on to the Wii era. And this is the last one like this, I promise. But I've never played Twilight Princess either. Twilight Princess came out in 2006. Unlike Majora's Mask and Wind Waker, I have like a zero knowledge of Twilight Princess. Like, I don't think I've ever seen anybody play it. I don't think I've seen much footage of it. Like, I do not know anything about this game. So I understand it's a little more adult and dark, kind of what you were hinting at a minute ago, David.
Right. Yeah.
But that's about all I know about this game. So yeah, what do y'all think about Twilight Princess?
Twilight Princess for me, spoiler alert, is my least favorite Zelda game. I don't hate it.
Right.
I don't hate any of these games. These are all good games, right? But it is the one to me that I feel like feels a little bit soulless, right? All the other games have their own like real identity, right? And I know this game does too. And I know fucking Twilight Princess fans are probably super mad at me right now. But it's like, it just doesn't have anything that screams, this is who I am, right? And a lot of that, I think, comes down to, I think Nintendo was kind of capitulating fans a little bit with this game, right? You know, because when the GameCube was first shown off, it was shown off with this tech demo of a super realistic looking Legend of Zelda game, right? And then they ended up doing Wind Waker. And that's why everybody was like, what the fuck, man? At E3, you showed this thing. And we all wanted to be like grungy, adult, like whatever. It's the early 2000s, man. And like, and you know, and then Nintendo was like, all right, fuck. All right, here. And then they like, basically, that's how I internalized it anyway, is that they were basically like, okay, well, let's give them what they really want, right? But then at the cost of that was a lot of the, you know, the like love and creativity that went into a game like Wind Waker, or the super weird, off-putting nature of Majora's Mask, or the revolutionary kind of aspects of Ocarina of Time. So for me, you know, I love the wolf mechanic. I think that's fun. I think that there are good characters in this, and I think the world is compelling. You know, it was cross-generational between GameCube and Wii as well. You know, so it was like, you know, kind of had the issue of early Wii games where it was just waggling for the sake of waggling. You know what I mean? The GameCube version of that game really is the best version of that game. But yeah, for me, this is my least favorite Zelda game. I just feel like it doesn't have its own identity. Matt, what do you think?
That's I've never thought about it like that. I think I generally agree with that. It does feel a little bit like drab to me. I think Wind Waker was so colorful and so fun, and had, you know, the way that they presented Tetra, the female character. I was looking for more of the playful aspect of what Zelda gives you, and kind of the like weird playful, but like Twilight Princess is like so serious and so gray and blue and like browns that it was a really hard cut from Wind Waker to Twilight Princess. So this is low on my list too. I like Twilight Princess maybe on par with Skyward Sword.
Yeah. I mean, this is one that I know I need to revisit, right? Like I never got the HD version on the Wii U. But if they did release it on the Switch, if they released like the Wii U versions of these games on the Switch, I absolutely would revisit it, because it's one that I admittedly never really gave a fair enough shake to. It just kind of bored me, you know? And like you said, this was the era of games where it was like, oh, to be realistic, to have realistic graphics means to like desaturate everything. You know what I mean? And like, I'll give it another chance at some point, because I know it's got its hardcore fans. A lot of people, this is their favorite Zelda game. Not most people, but a lot of people do think that. So yeah, those are my thoughts on it.
I didn't even realize it was a GameCube / Wii game until you
Mhm.
just said that. I feel like of all of these games, it's the least talked about. Maybe that's not true.
Yeah.
Maybe it just feels like, as somebody who I think around that time was like, I wasn't playing a lot of games and I missed it. And like, I don't, I've seen lots of footage of Wind Waker, you know what I mean? But I've played and seen Skyward Sword, but I've not seen much Twilight Princess. It's not something I support us putting it at the bottom for now, below Majora's Mask, which I think is what everybody's gonna say.
I mean, that's what I'm gonna say. But this was the Breath of the Wild of the Wii, right? Where it like straddled, Breath of the Wild was on Wii U and Switch, and it outsold Skyward Sword by a considerable amount because it was a launch game, right? Everybody was really excited for it. The GameCube version barely sold anything because everybody was really excited about the Wii, and so it's like. It's in this weird mode, right? But I think this is a game that will have its comeuppance eventually. I think just like Skyward Sword did when it was re-released on the Switch, I think a lot of fans will come out of the woodwork and a lot of people will start to see the good things about this. But as it stands right now, I got to put it pretty far down there on the list. And by that, I mean the bottom.
So everybody's agreed with that. Then our current rankings, just to check in, are number 1, Ocarina of Time. Number 2, Wind Waker. Number 3, Majora's Mask. Number 4, Twilight Princess. And we've got 2 more to go through.
You
feel good about that, Matt?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
I feel good while we're recording, but our fans, please send us feedback.
Yeah. This will be an interesting one to hear feedback on.
So Twilight Princess came out at the beginning of the Wii, right? Era, but Skyward Sword kind of came out towards the end, and that game came out in 2011 for the Wii, and really highly relied on the motion controls of the Wii, not just a pointless waggle like you were talking about. Like you really gotta swing that sword to play that game on the Wii. Mm-hmm. And I did play this one on the Wii, and I also played it on the Switch. When I played it on the Wii, I actually got stuck and gave up. But when I played on the Switch, I beat it. And so it's like the freshest 3D Zelda on my mind.
Now that you've actually played a game, give us your
you go first.
Give us your opinions on it. Yeah.
Man, I was really excited to play it. I kind of came into having a Wii late. And I was really excited to play this game because I was excited about swinging a sword and playing as Link. And I enjoyed what I played through, but I got kind of stuck early on. And I think the Wiimote, for whatever reason, the way I gripped it, like caused me a lot of hand pain. So I kind of just gave up. So that was a bit of a bummer, but I always thought I'd go back to it. And then, when it re-released, I had such a good time playing through Skyward Sword. Some of that's just very personal. Like I played it and my son and I played it together, and man, that game is padded and you go back through the same areas and it's a little bit of a slog at times.
It's got issues. Yeah.
But there's also a lot of charm in it. And I love like some of the characters and some of the elements that are annoying also have a flip side to them. Like I love the loft wings and I love just some of the way that all the characters are so unique. Like, I don't know. So it's definitely got some high highs and some low lows for me personally, but I had a really great experience playing it last year on the Switch.
Matt, what are your thoughts on Skyward Sword?
I like Skyward Sword. I think I have stronger Skyward Sword memories just so much because not a lot of people played Skyward Sword before it came to the Switch. And so people always asked about it, and like I thought about it a lot. And I think Skyward Sword offers an interesting like dungeon weapons. I think one of the most interesting ones is like that you got the big like a vacuum bag where you like
love the vacuum bag. Yeah, Luigi's Mansion it. Yeah,
right, exactly. I don't know what that thing's called. Please forgive me for not remembering what that item's called.
The Suckatron 3000.
That's it. The Suck Blow Atron 3000. And I loved using that, and on like the Scorpion boss was super fun.
Yeah.
And as well as like all of the characters that you meet in the very first section.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that Skyward Sword has arguably the best story in any Zelda game. I think it also it acts as this great origin story for the entire Zelda franchise, and I love that about it. I think it's got some of the best characters. It has the best version of Zelda, bar none. I think it's got some of the best dungeons in the series as well. I love the section with like the little Reddit-looking alien guys that like with the time mechanic where it's like there will be pockets of stuff in the past and pockets of areas in the future. Like that part really broke my brain. And like you, Matt, I also have like really fond memories of playing this game. You know, I played this game when I was in college or just after college. I think I pirated this game. Sorry, Nintendo. But I like played it on my Wii back when I was like super into modding my Wii, and I played it at the good old Wooten, the Woo. Some of you might know. And I actually like played it start to finish, and I was like really proud of myself. You know, I was like, this is back when I never beat any fucking games. You know, like I've gotten a little bit better over time. And so, so the story was like super impactful for me. So I'll always have really good memories of this. I think though, if we are judging these games based on their initial releases, I think that a lot of the problems that this game had were fixed with the Switch version. Mm-hmm. You know, there are still major design issues with the game, with a lot of the backtracking and a lot of the, you know, how sparse the open world is and whatever. But there are also lots of technical issues with this game, right? Every time you pick something like Fi was like super difficult to deal with. Like that was like I would cuss every time she would show up whenever I play this game, whenever it first came out. You know,
I kind of forgot about that because the Switch version is so fresh in my mind that you're pointing out that. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so it's way streamlined. So it's like I don't know if that's gonna like cause it to go up or down a peg depending on how we're judging it. But I mean, it's a great game with a lot of really great redeeming qualities, but is one of the most flawed games in the series as well, I think. So it's kind of hard to judge this one.
Yeah, I'm looking at it as Skyward Sword as it exists today, Switch version, as opposed to Skyward Sword as it existed when it came out originally.
Well, can we do that? Because we decided we're not doing the Majora's Mask 3DS version, which is a superior version as far as I'm concerned.
I don't know. Yeah,
I didn't sign up for this.
Did you play it on? You played it on Wii though, right, Matt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
Yeah. Where are we putting this?
Where do we think it roughly lands? We start in the middle roughly. Is it better or worse than Majora's Mask?
That's so hard. I think it's. Oh man, that's tough. It's tough because I'm the only Majora's Mask player here, so it all falls on me.
That's right.
I mean, it's better. It's better than Twilight Princess. I know that.
Okay.
I think so. I think it's better. I think it's at least fourth place right now, as far as I'm concerned. I know a lot of people would say this is the worst Zelda
I think
game,
that's where it's probably going to end up. If I had to predict where we put it. I've never played Majora's Mask, and neither has Matthew, but my gut instinct puts it below it. You know what I mean? Like my just sort of vibe I get from people.
I think that Majora's Mask is a better game than Skyward Sword.
All right. That's what we needed you to say.
Yeah. I mean, you guys still have votes here, even though you haven't played it. But my gut is telling me that Majora's Mask is a better game than Skyward Sword. Just on I think the story is amazing in Skyward Sword, but I think the overall package, I don't know. I just feel like Majora's Mask is a much more impactful experience at the end of the day, where Skyward Sword can feel a little bit forgettable after you've played it.
I can say that Skyward Sword, Wind Waker is better than Skyward Sword, and so is Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
I can agree with that. Yeah.
So, all right, here's the big question then. Is Twilight Princess? David already said his opinion, but Matthew, we need yours. Do you think Skyward Sword is better than Twilight Princess?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's what that's where I thought this was going to land. I think that feels right. So we're coming into the home stretch here.
Oh, bring on the hate mail, folks.
Yeah.
I don't
know. Skyward Sword. I like Skyward Sword, man.
I do too.
I think the story is great. Zelda.
I like all these fucking games.
Yeah. It's so fun. I'm sure the what's the big black monster with the spiky skin? What's that called?
Yeah.
It's
not Demise, is it? It's
Unchained or Unclaimed or something.
Yeah, it's the
where you hit its toes.
Yeah,
you hit its big bulbous toes.
Yeah. That is the part that it's that and like the one playing on the Wii, Sing Fee a lot. Those are the two the big problems with this game.
Oh, see, for me, that's not even like one of the problems for me. Like, I loved the Wii controls in this game. I like whenever anybody would be like, "Man, motion controls fucking suck," I'd be like, "Oh yeah, well, play Skyward Sword," and they'd be like, "I did, and I hated it," and I was like, "Okay."
I wasn't saying the Wii controls are just on the Wii, but not necessarily contributing to the controls. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I will say one thing that this game does have going for it. I think that Majora's Mask is better, for the record. But one thing I do think that this game does have going for it was that they figured out how to give Zelda back its identity, right? Not the character, but the series, right? Because, people were like, that's too kiddie with Wind Waker. And then they were like, that's too serious with Twilight Princess. And this was like a great blend, right? It was like the start of the current style of Zelda, which is kind of this cell shaded. It's still got the cell shading from Wind Waker, but a little bit more realistic. It's kind of got that's where Zelda started experimenting with its Ghibli phase, right?
I'm saying Skyward Sword is the combination Pizza Hut Taco Bell.
It's a Kintako Hut.
Yeah.
Also, just so you know, Matthew, it's the Gust Bellows. Is the item where you vacuum
Gust?
up
Oh yeah.
The
suck.
Wait, can someone look up the big black skin monster thing?
Oh yeah, what I think Matthew is on the right.
It wasn't Demise. It's like the unbowed, unbent, unbroken.
Imprisoned.
The imprisoned. That's what it was. What a forgettable name.
With his beautiful toes.
Yeah.
His weakness.
That was Quentin Tarantino's favorite Zelda anime.
And there's Groose. We didn't even mention Groose.
The Groose is loose, baby.
Man, what a character arc that happens in that game.
All right, so we got Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, Majora's Mask, Skyward Sword, Twilight Princess is our list.
Yeah, that's the order. So we're coming on the last one for now. So in 2017 for the Wii U / Switch, Breath of the Wild, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild came out. Yeah, I don't know. Like my experience of playing this game was like, this game was amazing to me. Like, I was instantly addicted, and this is one of the games that is the reason I'm here, like doing this podcast. Like it made me fall in love with this console, being able to play it handheld, like it just everything about it. Like I just that world, like just wandering around in it and doing whatever and just freaking riding horses around, and I don't even know.
Freaking riding horses.
Freaking riding those horses. I don't know, y'all.
Riding an elk. You can ride whatever you want. You could ride a Lionel for a second.
Like I don't know. I'll lay my cards. I think this is my favorite game on this list. Like, it's hard for me to put any of these other ones above it. Like, just the experience I've had with it. But what about y'all? I mean, how was Breath of the Wild for you? Do you feel the same way? Like, was it magical? Because as it was for me.
I long for the feelings that I had while playing Breath of the Wild for those first couple hours.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The sense of immersion, the subtle music, just being able to explore with little objectives. Like there's a looming objective circling Hyrule Castle, but just the sense of adventure that this game provides. I rarely have that experience after playing so many games for so long. And it seems like it's a shared experience across gamers of all ages and all experience levels.
Yeah.
If I look to like capture a feeling again, I want to play a game that gives me this feelings that I had while playing Breath of the Wild.
That's the main problem with Breath of the Wild, I think. Well, there's a couple big problems with Breath of the Wild, regardless of how good it is. But I think for me, the main problem with Breath of the Wild is that replaying it is hard. I want to replay this game all the time, but it's like, I feel like so much of the experience is wrapped up in that first playthrough, right? Like it's easier for me to replay Ocarina of Time than it is for me to replay Breath of the Wild. I mean, one is a lot more daunting of an experience, right? Another is a bit more bite-sized. But it's like, I feel like Breath of the Wild, so much of it is that sense of just smacks you in the face with like, oh my God, I can do that. You know, like I had no fucking idea that was even possible. You know what I mean? Like that shit. Or like, there's something on top of that mountain. You know, like
yeah, like
just
coming
like,
across that dragon on the mountain.
That was like a holy experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first time you see a dragon fly overhead too, and you're like, what the fuck is like
the little legs in snow walking like it's real snow.
Yeah. This game also like has the distinction of being the best game on both the Switch and the Wii U. Because I did play this game on the Wii U. I played this game all the way through on the Wii U.
Your point about replaying it's interesting too, because I keep telling myself I'm going to go back to my save file and finish some of the stuff I never did, some like DLC stuff that I never did, but I have never returned to this game, despite many like intentions to. Partly because I think it does feel daunting to come back to it and like remember things, or the idea of starting over feels really daunting.
So that's kind of where I'm at, because I sold my Wii U copy, right? So it's like, I had to start over again, and then I got like 15 hours in and stopped when I started replaying it. Yeah. I mean, it's like this game and Ocarina of Time are both genre defining.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree with that.
Like Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time set the stage for what games of this nature, action RPGs, open world games, whatever you want to call them, could be. And now Breath of the Wild has done the same. Breath of the Wild has basically spun out into its own genre of video game, right? Because there are open world games, and then there are games that are like Breath of the Wild. You know what I mean? And they're distinct games, right? It's like, and even though it does a lot of the same tropes of open world games up to that point, that's one of the great things about this game, is that it like incorporated stuff that finally incorporated stuff that other games had been doing outside of Nintendo. Like the idea of climbing a tower to open up areas of a map. That's like in other games, you like groan at that, but in this game it was like fucking felt really good. They figured it out, right? And it's the first open world game I ever played that like truly the best part was just running around and exploring. It wasn't the quests, it wasn't the shooting or whatever, blah 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 blah. It was just actually having fun, just fucking about. I've wanted every Grand Theft Auto game to be that. And to some extent they are, but none of them have ever felt as good as it is to just run around in Breath of the Wild, right?
And the ability to traverse, to climb over anything in the outer world. Like, I don't know how many games I've played in the intervening, 5 years or whatever, where I've been like, why can't I just get there? Like, I think about Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I think about Shin Megami Tensei 5, where I'm looking at these maps and trying to puzzle out the vertical sections. And I'm so frustrated because I'm like, why can't it just be Breath of the Wild? And I can just climb this thing. Like, even though you couldn't climb everything in Breath of the Wild, at least you could go stack stamina, or like you could.
Right.
I don't know, it just felt more like you could get where you wanted to go, regardless. Even early game, kind of.
I cannot believe that Horizon Forbidden West still has little yellow nodes that you have to grab in order to climb. You know what I mean? Because like Horizon Zero Dawn came out the same year as Breath of the Wild. That's Horizon's curse, is a week later a way better open world game will come out whenever a Horizon game comes out. But I was watching footage of Horizon Zero Dawn, and it seemed like they borrowed a lot from Breath of the Wild, and they like learned from the competition from back then. But then they still have the thing where it's like, oh, you could only climb on these certain points. And it just feels like an Uncharted game or like an Assassin's Creed game or something like that, right? And it's like I just can't. like it's unacceptable for me when open world games don't just like let you climb everywhere with the stamina meter now. I just want that in every open world game. It just feels the most right.
Yeah, and I think I don't know how to explain it. It's like it's looking at the map in Breath of the Wild. Like I never. Probably it's just because of the climbing. Like, but I struggle with these maps in Shin Megami Tensei 5, where I'm just like I can't tell where I'm supposed to, like which vertical level is which, and
which
that
is
just
by design.
wasn't an issue.
Yeah.
It just wasn't an issue in that game, you know?
Yeah. I also think this game is brilliant because it's the first 3D Zelda game that felt like it wasn't just trying to redo Ocarina of Time again. You know what I mean? This was the first 3D Zelda game that like had its own kind of style. And if anything, borrowed more from the original NES Legend of Zelda than it did from Ocarina of Time. You know, obviously it still had Z targeting, you know, it still had all this kind of stuff, but it didn't have traditional dungeons in which had been a staple. You know, the way the narrative progressed was way more like that NES game than it was like Ocarina of Time. I just feel like every 3D Zelda game was just Ocarina of Time, but kind of, you know, touched up a little bit and polished and put out for a new platform. And this really felt like it was doing something truly unique. And so, yeah, I mean, what a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we got to bring it to the list. Or you got something to say first, Matthew?
I was just gonna bring a Taco Bell metaphor to what you're saying. It's like Taco Bell is the same like 4 or 5 ingredients that they just make. It's like a quesadilla, or it's a taco, or it's a combination of the two. And like Zeldas over the years are often the same ingredients mishmashed together. You deliver a different product, but it's just a different combo of the ingredients. What I'm saying is Legend of Zelda is oftentimes the Taco Bell. And I love Taco Bell. I love PepsiCo commercials. Yum brands.
Breath of the Wild is the nacho fries of the Zelda franchise.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, everyone wants them, and it's advertised everywhere.
All right, well, we got 5 games on this list right now, and we need to place Breath of the Wild. Let's start in the middle. Is Breath of the Wild better than Majora's Mask?
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, of course.
As an easy yes. Is Breath of the Wild better than Wind Waker?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, we're getting near the top. Is Breath of the Wild better than Ocarina of Time?
This one hurts to say.
Yes. I'll go yes.
I say yes as well.
Oh, man, it is. I mean, it is. It's the best Zelda game of all time. I think it's an absolute masterpiece. And I love Ocarina of Time. And it's hard to say this because it's like Ocarina of Time is in and of itself such a brilliant game. But I mean, Breath of the Wild, if nothing else, if we're going to say that it's anything, Breath of the Wild has 2 decades worth of progression in the games industry under its belt that allows it that and it's better for it, right? It's like when Ocarina of Time came out, it was absolutely awe-inspiring because it was traversing this new world of 3D games for the first time and fucking nailed it, you know, much in the way that Mario 64 did, right? It was just like, how did they get all this right so early, right? Breath of the Wild they figured out how to make 3D games and didn't just iterate on what they had nailed the first time. They really took from outside the franchise and made it more than what it was, and it's better for it.
Yeah, the systems in that game where, you know, you can get on something and use your, why can't I think of the names of the things, the tablet, to launch yourself, and all the crazy physics stuff in the game is just.
I do. If I had to give, I mean, there's, you know, you can still criticize Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
You know, like I wish it had dungeons. I wish it had a better story. One thing that I do kind of resent about the Switch version of Breath of the Wild specifically is that the Wii U version is gimped because of it. You know, the game is clearly designed for the Wii U. The tablet that he holds in the game is just the Wii U controller. You know what I mean? And it's like every Zelda game that was like re-released on the Wii U, like had a separate menu that was only on the controller, which they just cut to make the versions the same. Right. So that I miss out on, but it does mean that the game is more future proof. It's better for it. And I think, I think ultimately it's Probably one of the top 3 games ever made of all time.
I also think
It's definitely in my top 3. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. The comment you made about Wind Waker's graphics kind of like being able to hold up too. I think Breath of the Wild's graphics theoretically, we'll see, but I feel like they will hold up. You know what I mean? Like, because it's kind of got that sort of timeless animation. Theoretically, we'll see, but
and they really leaned hard into the Ghibli on this, and in a way that didn't feel. I mean, maybe it did feel a little reductive. You know what I mean? Like it's I'm a huge Princess Mononoke fan. Like Princess Mononoke is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's definitely my favorite anime movie, and it's like this wears its Mononoke references on its sleeve. But I love that movie so much. I don't give a fuck. I think it's great. You know what I mean? I want to see more things rip off Mononoke. So yeah, I very excited to see what this next game has in store and if they're going to be able to top it. Yeah.
David, if you have to choose a better game between Breath of the Wild or Tetris, choose now. Just kidding. Don't you have to choose.
I don't understand their question, and I won't respond to it.
Well, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the sequel to Breath of the Wild, where that feels like it lands on this list.
I guess it's coming out December 2022. I don't know. We'll see when the second thing is coming out.
We'll see.
I was really thinking after the direct that Breath of the Wild was a lock for this year, and I really think that because Pokemon is coming out this year, that it's pushed back to March. It's going to be the justification they needed to push it back.
I could see it. Well, either way, we have our list, and just to rattle it off, so that you, listener, can be awed and agree 100% with this list. That is the official list. Number 1, Breath of the Wild. Number 2, Ocarina of Time. Number 3, Wind Waker. Number 4, Majora's Mask. Number 5, Skyward Sword. And number 6, Twilight Princess. That is the official Switch Headz ranking of 3D Zelda games.
Twilight Princess fans, at me. I fucking dare you.
Well, I think that does it then for this ranking discussion. We did it. We ranked the games. Good job.
Good job, everyone.
Yeah. A round of applause. And then we'll take a short break. And when we come back, we'll talk about the games we've been playing recently. All right. So I haven't really played anything new this week, but I will mention this. You know, I talked about this last time. I think I've been playing Pikmin 2 on the Wii. I think my Wii's disc reader crapped out, y'all.
What? No.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So I went the extra mile to get the, official Pikmin 2 disc for the Wii, partly to like have it as a gift to give to my son, because he's so obsessed with Pikmin. But now I think I'm gonna have to pirate the game because I don't have a Wii U.
Patrick, buy a Wii U.
Yeah, that's the only way to legally purchase
no
Pikmin
problem
2 presently.
Let me look at how much they cost.
No, you don't even have. Don't buy another copy. I mean, you've got it. It'll play on your Wii. You can just put the disc in, right?
Yeah. The problem is the Wii is not reading discs now.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying your Wii U will read that disc if you buy a Wii U.
Yeah.
Also, just mod your Wii. Yeah. And not and if you buy a Wii U, you can mod the virtual Wii on your Wii U. So it's the best of both worlds.
It's just a bit of a bummer, and another, kind of like our discussion last time about physical media and old consoles. They don't all hold up, and you might have this little problem, and there's no official way to fix this. So I might be able to fix it, or I might be able to get it working again, but that was a bit of a bummer because it's like, well, I guess we're going to pause our playthrough of Pikmin 2. Sorry, buddy.
Just pick up a Wii U. They range from $100 to $250.
Okay.
That's so fucking cheap, dude. That's cheaper than a 3DS.
Yeah. I'll think about it. Other than that, I don't think there's a whole lot for me to talk about. I don't know. I mean, I've been playing Smash and Shin Megami Tensei, but I'll talk about those things in other places. So
I'll go next. Also, I haven't played a lot of games this past weekend. I just enjoyed some time off. Just been hanging out. Went to see a couple plays over the weekend. I think I put 6 or 7 hours into Horizon Forbidden West. My God, what a beautiful game. It either plays at 30 frames or 60 frames. It is unplayable at 30 frames. It's so hard to play at 30 frames. 60 frames, the performance mode, It's a wonderful experience. And it is, we were talking about this in Breath of the Wild. It is a hard game to play knowing that there are areas where you can't explore or you're completely blocked off, where there's a couple sections where there story parts of the world, and there's like a barrier, like a fence. My character can jump over it, but there's an invisible barrier that I can't actually go there.
It's an outdated game concept. We're going to look back at that in like 10 years and be like, how did we ever play games like that?
Well, I am now 48. Speaking to 48 in the future.
Yeah.
I'm complaining today, and I can complain in the future.
Yeah.
That's very limited amount of gameplay this weekend, but I've been primarily playing that, and it's the fighting mechanics in Horizon are so fun. Shooting the little elements and the engines and the armor pieces off the robot animals in Horizon is so satisfying once you like hit the shot with the sound design and the gameplay and the attacking mechanics.
Very good. Well, I played enough games for the both of you because I've been staving off depression. And what we have here are some very, just a bunch of games from just a variety of different sources. I have been playing a good amount on Xbox. I'll go ahead and start with Infernax. I installed from Game Pass. It's also on the Switch. I would recommend Infernax. I'm not like super far into it, but I'm really enjoying the game so far. We played it, or I don't know if you guys played it, but I know I played it at PAX South. I met the developers of the game when we went in 2020, and they were really great guys, and we got along really well. And basically, the game is sort of a blend of NES and Super Nintendo Castlevania games with Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. So it's got very similar kind of experience and leveling up system that Zelda 2 has, where you do like build level and you grow and you get stats and whatever. But then it's got kind of like similar combat to Castlevania and a similar tone as well. It's like a lot of demons and night creatures and whatnot. So I'd really recommend that game. It's very much doing for like Castlevania what like Shovel Knight did for platformers, right? Where it's kind of like that NES throwback. Another game like that would be what's that ninja game? Cyber Shadow.
Cyber Shadow. Called?
Yeah. That's all three of those games kind of feel very similar to me, right? So I'd recommend Infernax. It's great. It's on the Switch now or on Game Pass. Switching back over to the Switch real quick, because I'll get to this last one here in a second. I played some online Mario Maker 2, and while I was on stream on Saturday, and man, God, fuck. I love online Mario Maker 2. I wish the internet was better. It would be like pretty much the only game I ever play, honestly.
Can you repeat that again? You said, oh man, God, fuck.
Oh man, God, fuck.
Shit,
but yeah, Jesus. So I was talking to somebody who was in my chat when I was streaming. Every time I stream that game, I get like new viewers, right? I think it's like still a very popular game to watch on Twitch. And he was saying that like Nintendo's still going in and like removing glitch levels and removing like troll levels and shit like that, which is kind of bullshit, but also like they're still paying attention. They remember the game's a thing. Maybe they'll update it for these new servers. Maybe. I don't know. Probably not. I picked up another game called Super Impossible Road. This is the logo right here. It's super fun. It's like probably should have waited for a sale because this game's like $20 and it's probably really not worth that. And so I got this game. It's like a ball rolling game, very much like Super Monkey Ball if the whole thing was downhill. And you basically have to like, there's different modes. You have to like kind of get to the end within a certain time limit, or do a race, or try to skip as many checkpoints as possible. But basically the idea is it's all about cheating and like getting off the track and going as far forward as you can, but you can't do that for super long because you can only stay off of the track for like 5 to 7 seconds before it cancels you out. So you have to kind of like, it's like a risk reward on like how far you actually want to get off the track to skip ahead. Otherwise you get booted back to the beginning. Super fun game. If you like ball rolling games, you'd love it. I clearly am a guy who loves ball rolling games. I started playing the Grand Theft Auto Definitive Edition version of Grand Theft Auto 3 again as well, because they did just put out 1.06 patch for this game. And I would say that this game is now probably worth buying on sale. I wouldn't buy this for $60 now still, but if you see this game for like 30 or 40 bucks, I think for getting all 3 of the PlayStation 2 Grand Theft Auto games, they're now performance-wise on Switch enough to where it's not kind of a chore to play. That game had major issues with pop-in and frame rate, right? And so you would run into cars that weren't there like 1 second ago, and you would have no time to like get out of their way. And then also whenever you were driving, the frame rate would dip incredibly. Now it's like holds like a pretty solid 30 frames per second. And the draw distance is very much improved. So I would say that they're probably worth playing now. It's a shame that they didn't get this version onto the physical version. I think that was the 1.0.5 update. It's on the physical version. So if you bought that game physically, sorry. I mean, you can still update it, obviously. But anyway, so yeah, I love that game. I love the Grand Theft Auto games. They're so much fun. And then lastly, I will say I finally started my playthrough of Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty HD Edition, developed by Blue Point Software right here in Austin, Texas. This has been a journey to get to this point. Some of you guys might know I streamed Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes. And that was my first ever Metal Gear Solid game. It was my first ever Kojima game. I loved it so much. I wanted to continue on, but Konami delisted this game, 2 and 3, from all digital stores. I would have bought it on the Xbox because that's what I played Twin Snakes on through the through RetroArch. And and so as a Series S owner, I don't have a disc drive in my Xbox. So I wasn't able to just insert this disc and play it through backwards compatibility, even though they removed it from the store. And so I tried all these different things. My friend Jeremy, we did Game Share on Xbox, and we tried him sticking this into his Xbox and unlocking it and seeing if I could download it that way. No dice. Then I tried game sharing with Jordan, who had a digital version of the game, and that wouldn't share either, which was weird. You would think that would have worked. So basically what I ended up doing was going over to Jeremy's house and borrowing his OG Xbox One VCR, which he doesn't use anymore because he has a Series X, and his copy of the game. So now anytime you see me streaming this game, it will be me playing on a very loud, very busted Xbox One, which is currently in my office, that turns on in the middle of the night. And we'll just go like randomly. And I'm like, this thing's fucking haunted.
It's got to check it to see if it's online.
I guess that's what is that what it is?
No, I don't know. I'm making
it might be.
Or not joke that yeah.
But anyway, so I'm streaming that now. So I started my stream of that game this past Sunday. I'm going to continue the night this episode comes out, which is Wednesday. I beat the snake section of the game at the beginning. Played through that in one sitting, and now I'm moved on to the Raiden sections.
Raiden.
And so, yeah, so I got to the point where he's like, I'm not going to call you Snake. I'm going to call you Raiden. And then I was like, all right, well, that's where we're calling the stream for today. But I'm loving it. And especially in these like crazy times, a game about ending nuclear proliferation definitely feels more timely now than ever before. It seems like current events have lined up with my playthrough of this series. So if you'd like to watch more of that, tune in to twitch.tv/MonolithFiji.
I've been playing your stream on in the background and watching you play Metal Gear Solid is such a thrill for me.
Oh,
I love this series so much.
Yeah.
Are you going to play through all of them? Asking for me.
That's the plan. Yeah. I played through Twin Snakes, which all those VODs are still up, by the way. And then I'm playing through 2 at the moment. Then I'm probably going to play through 3. I don't know if I'm going to do Peace Walker. We'll see. The real question is how the fuck am I going to play 4? Because I have a PS3 fat in my closet somewhere, but it also doesn't have a disk drive that works, Patrick. So I've got to like download that on there. I guess I could stream it through PS Now, but I don't have PS Now. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe by that point, the Steam Deck will be out and PS3 emulation will be good enough to where I can just emulate the thing on my Steam Deck and play it by then. So we'll see. But yeah, my plan is to play through the series. I already bought Metal Gear Solid 5 on the Xbox when it was on sale. So I'm preloaded and ready to go for whenever I get to that one.
Phantom Pain. Just the whole series of Metal Gear Solid is so good.
Yeah.
I just love it so much.
Well, I think that does it for this week's episode then. Thanks to MilkyWay.co, who does our website. Thanks to Corduroy, who does our music. And if you're looking for me, Patrick, online, I am PDYX or PDYX123 on Twitch.
I'm Matthew on Twitter, MATHYOU.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And if you'd like to find our show on social media, we are at Super Switch Headz on Instagram and Facebook, at Switch Headz on Twitter. We got our website, www.switchheadz.com. And then you can also join our Discord and Facebook groups, the links of which we will have both in the description of this video or podcast, wherever you're listening or watching. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for our episode on this fucking shit. I can do better than that. That's going to do it for our episode on Zelda rankings. Thank you so much for listening. I'm sure you got some spicy takes after listening to this. I'm sure you were screaming at your TV or your car or whatever it is that you're getting this podcast from. So let us know in the comments. Specifically, let us know in the comments on YouTube. So make sure you go out there, tell us what you thought. Hit us up on Discord. We'll keep the conversation going. Because, man, there's a lot of great Zelda games, and they can't all be number one. Anyway, guys, we're going to be back next week with another great episode. We love you guys very much. Stay safe out there. Get that booster shot if you haven't yet. Be careful. Love yourself. Love each other. See you next week. Bye-bye.